7 Stoic lessons to never lower yourself again. I used to say sorry when people stepped on my shoes. If a friend cut me off mid-sentence, I'd smile, swallow the rest of my thought, and laugh like it didn't matter. Every nod, every like, every scrap of approval felt like oxygen. If the world withheld it, I collapsed. One night, after a dinner where my ideas were ignored and my jokes recycled by someone else, I sat in the car with that sting in my chest. And it finally hit me. I wasn't being stepped on. I was volunteering for the role. So I ran a 6-month experiment living out 7 lessons straight from Stoicism, pressure-tested in real life. No fancy affirmations, no pretending to be tougher than I was. Just ancient wisdom applied to daily indignities, the interruptions, the small dismissals, the moments we trade self-respect for a seat at the table. What happened next didn't just change the way I spoke to others. It changed the way I stood inside my own skin. This is what I learned when I stopped lowering myself for good. Lesson 1. Your worth isn't a popularity poll. Epictetus once said, "If you seek truth, you will not seek to win at all costs." At first, that sounded like something carved on a dusty temple wall, wise but far away from real life. Then I tested it. Picture this: staff meeting, fluorescent lights buzzing. I had a half-baked idea, nothing polished, no PowerPoint, just a gut-level thought I believed in. Normally, I would have sanded it down until it was safe, or just kept quiet altogether. But this time, I said it out loud. The room went quiet. Old me would have panicked, rushed to fill the silence, cracked a nervous joke, backtracked. But I waited, and in that pause, something shifted. One person leaned forward, then another asked a question. Soon, the whole room was chewing on the idea, improving it, expanding it. The project actually moved forward without me begging for approval, without me performing for claps. Here's the takeaway: say the true thing, then stop talking. Let reality handle the echo. Because here's what the Stoics knew: truth has its own gravity. It doesn't need marketing. It doesn't need spin. It just needs space to be heard. Practical drill. This week, pick one situation at work, with friends, even with family, where you usually soften your words to sound acceptable. Instead, say your honest thought. Then, stop. Count 5 slow breaths before speaking again. Watch what happens when your worth isn't up for a popularity vote. Lesson 2. Real presence doesn't need spotlights. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The cucumber is bitter, throw it away. There are brambles in the path, step aside." Translation: stop dramatizing, just be here. For years, I thought presence meant shining like a spotlight. Always the loudest joke, the biggest story, the cleverest line in the room. But the truth? That was just auditioning for approval in a different costume. So, I tried something different. At a friend's birthday party, I didn't know a single soul. Old me would have floated from group to group, trying too hard to be funny, hoping someone would anchor me. Instead, I picked one person, a stranger, and gave them my full attention. No scanning for better company, no plotting my next line. Just eye contact, listening, nodding when it made sense. 10 minutes in, she tilted her head and said, "You're weirdly calming." That one comment landed harder than any forced laugh or exaggerated story ever had. Because presence isn't about dazzling, it's about anchoring. People can feel when you're really there with them, not half there and half wondering who else might validate you. Takeaway: quit auditioning for attention. Be like gravity, quiet, steady, impossible to ignore. Practical drill: next time you're in a group, pick one person. Ask them one genuine question, then listen without planning your next line. Notice how your presence sharpens, how the conversation deepens. That's real charisma grounded, not performed. Lesson 3. Keep the promise you make to yourself. Seneca warned us, no wind is favorable to the sailor with no port. If you don't know where you stand, the social breeze will carry you anywhere it wants. For most of my life, I broke promises to myself before breakfast. Snooze button, scroll first thing, skip the stretch I swore I'd do. Then later, when the moment came to speak up or take a stand, I'd fold because my brain had learned the pattern, my word doesn't count. Here's when it shifted. One morning, in a group chat, people started roasting a coworker who wasn't even there. My thumb hovered over the laugh emoji, cheap ticket to belonging, but I paused. I heard Seneca in the back of my mind, and I typed, "Let's not do gossip." Silence. For a moment I thought I'd just exiled myself. Then someone changed the subject. No fanfare, no applause, just a small promise kept. My heart was pounding, but my spine felt straighter. That was the first brick. Every time I kept a promise to myself, another brick went down, brick by brick, a house no storm could knock over. Takeaway: every small promise kept to yourself is proof of loyalty to yourself. Confidence isn't a mood, it's a ledger of those promises. Practical drill: pick one ridiculously small promise you can't justify breaking. Example: when the kettle whistles, I'll drink a full glass of water. Stack 10 in a row, and notice how your brain stops saying, "I'll try," and starts saying, "I do." Lesson 4. Your standards aren't for sale. A client once leaned across the table and said, "Could you just tweak the numbers? Just this once." Old me would have negotiated the size of the lie. How much fudge is small enough to still sleep at night? But here's the truth. Once you open the door, even a crack, compromise floods in like water. I remembered Epictetus, "You become what you give your attention to." And I thought, if I give my attention to this lie, I'm practicing being a liar. That's not who I want to become. So I said, "The numbers speak for themselves." The deal walked out the door. My integrity stayed. That night, I slept better than I would have with the extra paycheck. Takeaway: if the price tag is your integrity, the deal is always too expensive. Practical drill: before you say yes, ask, would I still take this deal if no one ever found out? If the answer is no, you already know your line. Keep it, protect it, guard it like a fortress wall. Lesson 5. Silence can be a hidden tax. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. For years, my so-called revenge against digs and microjabs was silence. I thought swallowing them made me stoic. But silence, when it's fear in disguise, is just a tax you keep paying until you go broke. At work, one co-worker kept calling me the spreadsheet whisperer. Harmless on the surface, right? Except every time he said it, my actual contributions got flattened into a joke. Meeting after meeting, the nickname became my label, and I paid the tax with a smile. One day, I decided to test a boundary. After the stand-up ended, I caught him and said calmly, "Hey, that nickname bugs me. Could we drop it?" He blinked, paused, then said, "Oh yeah, sure, sorry." And just like that, the tax ended. Years of quiet frustration cancelled with a single honest sentence. Takeaway: boundaries spoken late still arrive on time. Practical drill: think of one nickname, one joke, or one comment you've been silently carrying. This week, address just one. Don't scold, don't snap, just state calmly, "That doesn't work for me. Can we drop it?" Watch how quickly silence stops being your tax collector. Lesson 6. Love the version of you that's still loading. Epictetus told his students, "No great thing is created suddenly. But here's the trap most of us fall into. We treat ourselves like unfinished software full of bugs. We keep a mental list of every flaw, every shortcoming, every missed deadline, as if perfection is the only version worth respect. For years I spoke to myself in a voice I'd never use on a friend. If I missed the gym, pathetic. If I stumbled during a presentation, hopeless. It was constant, corrosive commentary. One night, I tried something different. I grabbed a notebook and wrote a letter, not from me, but from the version of me who was wiser, kinder, and patient. A version who sounded like the mentor I wish I had. It started, "You're not behind. You're becoming." I read it aloud. My voice cracked, my shoulders dropped, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was sprinting toward an impossible finish line. Takeaway: treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping because you are. Practical drill. Tonight, write one paragraph to yourself in the voice of a kind mentor. Not pep talk, not fluff, just encouragement. Read it back tomorrow morning before the day grabs you. Repeat this for a week. Watch how your inner critic softens and your posture toward yourself changes. Lesson 7. The journey measures you, not the trophy. Marcus Aurelius closed one of his journals with the line, "No more of this cringing. For most of my life, I believed dignity would arrive packaged with the trophy, the promotion, the six-pack, the perfect relationship. I thought only once I won big would I finally stand tall. But 6 months into practicing these Stoic lessons, I realized the real scoreboard wasn't flashy. It was quiet. It was walking past a clothing store and not needing to buy the right jacket just to feel acceptable. It was deleting the dating app after someone mocked my playlist. No argument, no defense, just gone. It was saying no to a request that didn't align with my values and walking away without guilt. Those moments didn't trend on Instagram, but they stacked into something stronger than likes or applause. Self-respect. Takeaway: count the quiet choices where you pick alignment over approval. That's the true scoreboard. Practical drill. Before bed, jot down one moment from your day where you chose integrity over image, dignity over applause, or truth over comfort. Keep a log. After 30 days, you'll have a record of victories no one can take away. Because, in the end, the trophy isn't the promotion, the body, or the partner. It's the ability to meet your own eyes in the mirror and not flinch. The 6-month ledger. Final call to action. At the end of this experiment, I looked back at the balance sheet of my life. The old ledger looked like this: likes on posts, nods in meetings, forced laughs at parties. It was shallow, fragile, and always shrinking. The new ledger looked different. Times I spoke the truth without flinching. Evenings, I left with dignity intact. Mornings, I could meet my own eyes without contempt. That ledger doesn't fit in a spreadsheet. It fits in your chest. Here's what the Stoics taught me. Dignity isn't handed out. It's built. One choice, one boundary, one small act of courage at a time. So here's your challenge. 1. Pick one of these 7 lessons. Just one. 2. Act on it today before the sun sets. 3. Write it down tonight, no matter how small. Do this for a week, and you'll start to feel the ground under your feet shift. Do it for 6 months, and you'll stand taller than you thought possible, not because the world applauds, but because you no longer lower yourself. If this resonated, drop the number of the lesson you're going to try in the comments. I'll be reading and cheering you on. And remember, brick by brick, you're building a presence no one can shrink, not even you.